All right, let's talk about boys love, or BL. It's this massive genre now, a true pop culture powerhouse that's really taken over the world. But it wasn't always that way. Today, we're going to dive into its incredible history, right from its beginnings in Japan. So have you ever stopped to think about how that happened? I mean, how did BL go from this really specific kind of niche subculture to the global phenomenon we all know today? Well, that's exactly the journey we're going to unpack. It's a story that really unfolds in three key stages. First, we've got the 1970s, which you could call its romantic roots. Then, things get a little spicier in the 80s and 90s with what we'll call the explicit turn. And finally, the 2000s and beyond, which is when it just absolutely exploded into the mainstream.
So, let's start at the very beginning. We're heading back to the 1970s, to the dawn of a new kind of storytelling called Shounen-ai.
And what's so fascinating, right from the get-go, is that this genre was pioneered by women for women. You'd see these stories popping up in magazines like June, and they were really different. They deliberately steered clear of anything explicit. Why? Well, it gave these creators this incredible freedom to explore romance completely outside of the usual societal rules. The whole focus was on the drama, the emotional connection, that deep sense of romantic longing.
And this early genre had a name, Shounen-ai. It literally translates to boys love, which, honestly, is the perfect name for it. It captured the whole vibe of that era. These were stories all about the romantic and emotional bonds between guys, where sexuality just wasn't the main point. It really took a back seat.
But, things never stay the same for long. As the genre got bigger, creators and fans wanted to explore new territory, and boy, did they. The 1980s and 90s brought this huge, dramatic shift, all driven by a new way of sharing stories and a new term that came to define this whole new era, Yaoi.
Okay, so to really get this shift, you have to understand a key concept, Doujinshi. Think of these as fan-made, self-published works, comics, novels, you name it. And because they were totally outside the mainstream publishing world, creators had absolute freedom. They could explore all the themes that were considered way too bold or explicit for traditional magazines. And let me tell you, that creative freedom was a total game changer.
And the contrast here is just, wow, it's striking. If the 70s Shonen-ai was all about that deep, romantic connection, then the yaoi of the 80s and 90s just dove headfirst into sexual exploration. Now, it's important to remember this wasn't a replacement for the original. It was more like a bold new branch growing right alongside it.
And that brings us right up to the modern era, kicking off in the 2000s. This is when BL didn't just grow, it completely broke out of its niche communities and just exploded into the mainstream.
So how did it make that leap from niche to global? Well, it was a step-by-step journey. It all started, of course, with the manga and the fan-made Doujinshi. But then, those stories got picked up for official anime adaptations, and suddenly the audience got way bigger. And the final step? Live-action dramas. That's when these stories became massive, mainstream hits, creating this incredibly passionate global fandom that we see today, stretching across continents.
So when you look back at this whole incredible journey, what's the legacy of BL? Where does it stand now? It's simple, really. It's become nothing short of a cornerstone of modern pop culture.
There's a quote that just nails the genre's journey perfectly. It describes it as moving from emotional, subtle romance to bold storytelling exploring sexuality, all while maintaining a strong emotional core. And that right there, that emotional core, that's the secret sauce. It started way back in the 70s, and it's been the genre's undeniable anchor ever since.
So, at the end of the day, BL is so much more than just a genre, isn't it? It's a full-on cultural force. It started in Japan, but now it inspires creators all over the world. And the best part? It's still evolving, still finding new stories to tell and new audiences to captivate year after year.
And that rich history, all that constant change and adaptation, it really leaves us with one massive question. In a world where media and culture are changing faster than ever, what's next?
Hey, if you enjoyed this little trip through BL history, make sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss our next one. We'd love to hear what you think is next for BL, so definitely drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks so much for tuning in.